Okay, tonight, not feeling the best. Gonna hang out in bed and watch The Void, and was going to watch Red State tonight, but really couldn't get it to work. So tonight, watching The Void finally. I got into this a little while ago, but I stopped watching it halfway through. I have the worst habit of doing that, but tonight we're going to finish it. I know it has cult vibes. It's kind of like body horror-y, so I'm really like 80s vibes. Really excited to get into this one, so I will check back in with you at the end to let you know my thoughts. Hey, what's up, Spooky fam? Today we are continuing our series of cult horror movies, and today we are talking about 2016's The Void. Before we begin, I am not going to talk too in depth about this movie. Once again, I'm just going to kind of give you my idea of a review. I'm going to leave the whole in-depth story up to Foundflix. I'm going to leave a link down below to Foundflix's video about The Void. Not only does he go in depth about the story, but he goes more in depth about like The Void itself and kind of themes in the movie that I really appreciated, because I felt like I felt the ending was left a little ambiguous for us, but it was kind of intentional. I'm also going to leave a link down below to a behind the scenes video for the making of this movie. It's called Nightmare Logic. It was really cool to see kind of the ideas and the behind the scenes of the practical effects that went into this movie. So I highly recommend that if you are a fan of this movie, or if you check it out, to watch the behind the scenes. So really quickly, let's just talk about The Void in a general discussion. The Void is primarily about a cop who starts to experience extremely weird, scary, and graphic occurrences after finding a stranger. He takes the stranger to a hospital that literally has like one patient and maybe 5 staff members. But once he's in the hospital, they are locked in and they are trapped by hooded figures. If you guys watch the behind the scenes, you'll see how the hooded figures outside, how that effect was done, and I really appreciate it. But yeah, anyways, it just becomes a whole body horror tentacle-y mess, and I appreciated it a lot. So really quickly, some positive things that were said about this movie. Things like it's a nostalgic movie for fans of 1980s body horror, for fans of Lovecraftian horror, and it's definitely worth keeping an eye on, and I have to agree. For me, this movie genuinely felt like a mix of The Mist, The Thing, some Cronenberg for sure. Anything with a little bit of a Cronenberg feel, I'm here for. But this definitely also gave me vibes of Baskin, which I recently watched. I'm also going to link down below Chris Stuckman's review for this video, because I also watched that a couple of weeks ago and I thought it was fantastic. But let's get into the things I liked about this movie. Some spoilers may be ahead if you have not seen it. Please be warned. Knives Chow is in this movie. If you guys have seen Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, you guys know Knives. This is the only other movie that I have seen her in besides Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, I'm pretty sure. But as soon as I saw her, I was like, oh, so cool. She is actually really talented. Her name is not Knives Chow, by the way. It is Ellen Wong. Put some respect on her name. So let's talk about the body horror. I am a big fan of body horror. Actually, next month our theme is body horror. The only words that I could use to describe this movie, I would have to go with like gnarly, sticky, juicy, and disgusting, and I loved every minute of it. I was here for every single bit of the body horror, every monster, every hellish, imaginative, just being in that movie. I was here for every bit of it. The special effects, the practical effects, were crowdfunded on Indiegogo, and the crew for the movie raised over $82,000. So there was a lot of love that went into this one. There is minimal CGI in this movie, like very minimal CGI, which I appreciated, but when there was CGI in this movie, you noticed it because the whole movie was done with practical effects. So you kind of like are taken out for a second, and I guess it more or less happens at the very end, so it's fine. Anyways, let's talk about a few things that I disliked about this movie. One specifically being the strobe light effect. That was incredibly distracting for me. There was just some parts where it felt a little bit too much and I kind of had to look away from the screen. I also really didn't like the two main characters' romantic relationship. I just didn't think it added anything to the story. But going back to the strobing effect, in some spots I feel like it worked because it kind of hid any imperfections that could have been in the practical effects. It just made it seem more realistic. In my initial notes, I wrote down that I wasn't too impressed with the cult and the ambiguity of the ending, but after watching fan flicks and kind of diving more into the lore of the story, I appreciated it a lot more. I initially wrote down here that I wish I knew more of the motives, but now I am fully aware of what went on in that story, which is why I highly suggest checking out FanFlix' video. So let's move on to ratings. For cult vibes, I initially gave it a 5 out of 10, but I think I'm gonna go ahead and bump it up to an 8 after watching FanFlix and knowing more about the cult and knowing more about the motives. Like I mentioned, I wanted to know more and I got that closure. We got a really good mix of cult vibes, body horror, and a really cool descent into hell in this movie. For scares, depending on who you are, body horror or any kind of the subject matter in this movie may make you feel a certain way. I'm also going to give this one an 8 out of 10, and that is for scares. For gore, I'm going to go ahead and give this one a full 10 out of 10. I thought it was fantastic. It was just so gross, and like I mentioned, it was just juicy and disgusting. Overall, my score ends up being 8.5 out of 10 for this movie. I think that reflects it nicely. This is a good old Canadian film. I really enjoyed it, and I hope that you guys, if you have seen it, that you enjoyed it as much as I did. Our next video is going to be about Midsommar. It is not a review or anything, but it is going to be my reaction that I have had saved since I initially watched the movie in 2019. So I hope that you're looking forward to that. We're gonna have a major throwback. But I thank you for watching. I will see you soon. Go ahead and check out all of my links down below. Thank you for keeping up with this series, even though it's only the second day in, but I am very excited about what I have planned. I will see you so soon. Sayonara, Spooky fam.